60% of interviewers make their decision within the first 15 minutes. So it's very important to have a good first impression, especially if you want the job. Now, for mine, I'll be using the Federal Reserve Bank of Cleveland as my example as a place that I would want to apply to. So we're going to be using an acronym to break this down. Uh, the acronym is called WRAP, Website Requirements Ask and Prepare. Let's go over website. So you want to visit their website and make sure that everything that you see on the website matches up with what you actually want to do. Um, then you want to stalk the social media. Oftentimes, companies, industries, or firms will um, they'll leave internal videos on their YouTube page because they'll like send them out as like training or whatever, or they'll have like a ton of YouTube videos that maybe you should watch to become prepared for it, especially if you can like gauge who your interviewer is, and especially if the interviewer is the same person who like runs the YouTube channel. Um, it- Really, you should just learn as much as you can beforehand and then worry about it later. And you want to learn as much beforehand because you want the ability to ask. You want the ability to ask. Usually, interviewers, they'll ask you at the end of the interview, do you have any questions? And you should have questions. You should have a lot of questions for them because it shows that you're interested in the job and it gives you credibility. Um, and you don't want to ask silly questions or stupid questions about the business that you already should know. So doing the background research is very, very important. Um, Next slide. All right, requirements. So you should review all the job requirements. Make sure that you have all of these. If you don't have all of these, then perhaps you should do a little bit of work before the interview actually comes up so you can say like, oh yeah, I was just working on that last week or something like that. Um, if you don't have the relevant skills, that's what I was saying, is you need to brush up on the relevant skills and knowledge. Especially for people who've been like out of the workforce for a while because they're unemployed, you might want to brush up on some skills, maybe even interpersonal skills. Maybe talking to people, go outside and talk to 8 people a day or something. I don't know, that's crazy. Um, and then you want to understand your role and fit. So a lot of this is interpersonal. Like people picture jobs, or at least I did, as something where you just kind of clock in, clock out. You see your spreadsheet, you make sure the spreadsheet's fine, but it's really more than that. A lot of it has to do, unfortunately, with like making sure more of the job has to do with like actually pleasing your boss than actually doing your job. But that's a story for another time. Um, so you need to understand your role and fit and how you fit in, especially when it comes to clients. Like how do you make um, the client service better? Because that's what your company ultimately wants is to please the client. And if you please the client, then you'll please the company. Um, yeah, you want to understand your role and fit. You don't want to be the guy on the left. You want to understand your role. All right. So this is probably the most crucial step. It's ask. You should be curious about your work. Be curious about your interviewer and ask your network. The truth is that most interviewers are just as nervous about the interviewing process, and most are looking online or asking some LLM about what they should ask the applicant. Many of these interviewers they're very new at it, and they're probably going to be nervous about meeting someone new who might work at the company. So you want to help them along with the interview. Be conversational, ask questions. You don't want to sit in the corner and like pretend that you're anything else than what you are. You want to be who you are, be personable, be relatable, be likable, and maybe if they like you, they'll hire you. If they don't like you, if you're super smart but they can't like you, there's a very low chance that they're going to hire you, I think. Um, so be very curious about your work. You want to cultivate kind of this like mystique of curiosity. Like you're very curious about the work. Ask detailed questions. Ask like, what exactly will I be doing? Don't use the words "what exactly will I be doing," but like figure out what you're doing and then get more detail from there. Um, it's a two-way street. You get way more credibility if you actually use it as a conversation and not as a test. Most people use it as a test, and that's just kind of a waste. Um, so yeah, be curious about the interviewer. People love to talk about themselves. I love to talk about myself. Who doesn't love to talk about themselves? Um, yeah, talk about sports with them, football, basketball. Talk about their children. If you both have children, then go ahead, talk about your children. People love to talk about their children. It's exhausting. Um, Talk about where you grew up. If you grew up in the same hometown, figure that out. This is where, apart from earlier, where you should be doing research is uh, the other part of stalking the social media is like maybe if you know who the interviewer is, maybe you can do a little bit of preliminary research to like figure out if you have anything in common, and then bring up what you have in common in the interview. And then ask your network. People don't like this one, but um, your network exists for a reason, and um, you should be asking your network to put in a good word and put you at the top of the stack. And the truth is that if you have someone at the company who says that they think you're a good worker and you have an identical resume to someone else, or even if you're a worse worker, you'll probably get the job over someone who didn't have someone say that about them at the company. So it's important to do. It's just a small part, but it's very important to do. Um, and then prepare. Always be prepared. This is the biggest lesson, I guess. Um, Prepare your outfit, your arrival, your materials. You should look nice. You should be put together. You should act intelligent. Um, you shouldn't look panicked. It's difficult for me to do, but you should you should show up, look responsible, because they're gonna want to give you responsibilities. So dress the part. Um, your outfit. So you should dress for the job that you want. If you want to be an investment banker, dress like this guy, or if you want to work in private equity or whatever else he's doing, dress like that guy. Or if you want to be a baker, or if you want to be a painter, you should dress like all those people. Um, be on time, and not like for me. This is really just a personal preference. If I'm being honest, is I like to get there 15 minutes early, just in case there's any traffic, or just in case the bus is late, or something else has come up, or I'm panicking or something like that. 15 minutes is fine. Um, and I would say at least 5 minutes early. If I feel like if you're not at least 5 minutes early, you're kind of late. Um, and then materials. Another personal preference is I like to bring extra copies of my resume just in case they don't have it with them. Like sometimes they'll just schedule meetings and they won't really know like to bring copies of it with them, especially if it's like an online um if it's an online submission where you submitted your resume. So like bring a physical copy with you and like hand it to them is kind of a nice touch. Shows you're prepared and you've thought of things. Or sometimes I gave this one up, but like I'll bring a notepad and like write stuff down. That I don't like it anymore because it's not conversational. But uh, I could see some people using that. Um, and then you want to be ready for responses. So um, you want to be ready to respond to any questions that they have. So always have a list of preloaded answers. You have to make sure it's conversational. I don't know how many more times I'll say it, but it has to be like you have to get the flow going. It's not a question and answer between you and a teacher. It's conversational. Um, and then here's this guy to explain.
So, Vim, tell us a little bit about yourself before we begin. That's the first question they always ask. Tell us about yourself. Make sure you've got something prepared for that, right? So I'll give you the 10. I'll fire them off at you. First one is, tell us about yourself. Second one, classic. So tell us a bit about your strengths and weaknesses. Next, why do you want to work here? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Why should we hire you? Tell us about a challenge or conflict you faced at work and how you dealt with it. 7, what is your greatest professional achievement? 8, Tell us, why are you leaving your current job? 9. How do you handle stress and pressure? 10. Classic one they always end on. So Evan, do you have any questions for us? We know, all of us, we know that these are the most common questions, yet we don't prepare. Do you know what most people do here? Most people give descriptive phrases about themselves, adjectives. They'll say things like, oh, yeah, sure. My values are integrity, honesty, punctuality. My only weakness is that I'm a perfectionist and I do things really well. Right? No, connect with people. This is where you build rapport.
That's all the yapping we need. But you get the point. Is that you don't want to list like I'm so hardworking. You want to give examples about how you're hardworking in previous times. It's better to give an example than to say that you are, because everyone's going to say that they are. They're in a job interview. So that's the wrap. And hopefully, when we wrap all this up, you have a job. You have looked at the website, you looked at the requirements, you've asked your network, you've asked questions, and you prepared. So these are the things that I do beforehand to make sure that I am prepared um, for the job interview. And it's 2 to 3 weeks before. I'll visit their website. Usually, I actually do this earlier, but um, I'll research their mission and follow their social media just because it might set you above the rest just to follow their social media. Uh, and then 1 to 2 weeks before, I'll review the job posting and identify any skills or responsibilities. And then one week, I'll I'll think about thoughtful questions to ask, and I'll ask my network or anyone who I know to put in a good word for me. And then 1 to 4 days before, I'll start to prepare like fully. I'll print my resume out. I'll get all my I'll basically get an outfit out, um, coordinate my responses, uh, make sure that like I have all my stuff together. Just it's all in a pile, and then I can just take it out the door with me. And that is the end of it. But I want to leave you on one note, and it's from John Wooden. Confidence comes from being prepared, and that's definitely true of interviews. And you should definitely come prepared.